With journalist Peter Badel. Peter, a massive turnout for Jai Opetaia, Dave Nyika. Your thoughts on this fight?
What a beautiful day this has been already, Jai. I mean, it's been amazing. I think I love the aggression from Dave Nyika on stage. There was real tension. It was palpable, and I think we're going to see a firefight. I really think Jai wins this fight. Firstly, but Dave Nyika is a dangerous customer, and he's fit, he's physical, and to me this narrative. It's almost like WWF narratives, the irresistible force and the immovable object. And I think Jai will be very hard to move, but Dave Nyika is fit, he's got some class, he's got some confidence, and I wouldn't be surprised if this fight goes into the later rounds.
What do you make of that face-off there? It's very tense, very heated. We don't normally see that level of animosity from Jai Opetaia.
Yeah, well, I remember the Kambosos Lomachenko face-off. That went for about 5 minutes in Perth early this year. I nearly fell asleep. But there was great tension there, and it was genuine. It wasn't confected, and I think it was born out of a belief from Dave Nyika that he's coming to spoil the party. And this is Jai's homecoming. He hasn't been here for 2 years. Of course, we remember the heroics at this very venue when he broke his jaw in 2 places against Marius Breedis and became a world champion. That will be the narrative for Jai, and he will defend that with great resilience. But I think Dave Nyika is ready to throw down the gauntlet. And look, I think it's probably a little bit early for him in his career. He's only had 10 fights, but cometh the hour, cometh the man, and I believe Dave Nyika, in his heart, believes he can pull off a boil-over.
Australian boxing landscape more broadly, lots on at the moment. Eddie Hearn's going to make a major play here in Australia this year, he said. Your thoughts on, I guess, the landscape at the moment?
Well, it's a fillip for Australian boxing. I mean, I think we've been on a real great trajectory. I think No Limit's done an amazing job in elevating the fighters in this country. But not only No Limit, we've also seen Angelo Di Carlo with Liam Paro, who became a world champion last year when he beat Matthias. So there's been promoters in this country knocking on the door for a while and elevating Australian boxing, and I think No Limit have taken that to another level with their professionalism, with the stable of fighters they've got. Of course, Tszyu, Nikita Tszyu's on the rise. But I now think competition's healthy, and even duopolies in all sorts of countries prove that both parties can benefit from duopoly setups. So whether that means DAZN has a greater presence in Australia, hand in glove with No Limit, which will remain a strong presence in Australia, no doubt. So I think Australian boxing is the winner, and I'd love to see what Eddie Hearn can do here, because he's proven to be very powerful and a strong force in world boxing. Let's see what he can do in Australia.
Now, I know you saw my interview with Eddie Hearn yesterday. What did you make of his comments on Tszyu? He sort of questioned, is he elite? Is he at that world-class level? What are your thoughts on that?
Fascinating, but also some validity to it. I mean, I think Tim's at a stage in his career now where after 2 losses, and there was a mitigating factor with Fundora because of the head cut, but I was concerned, Jai, you were there with the loss to Murtazalayev. I thought Tim underestimated him. I thought there was a touch of hubris in the way he fought that fight. And so for me now, it's about Tim going back to the drawing board. I don't think he's finished by any means. He's just turned 30. He's married now. He's got his life settled. So I think strategically, though, they have to be careful with how they position him now in the return. I think I watched him in his fight against Bakram, and what concerned me, Jai, was against Jeff Horn, I saw a practitioner, I saw a professor, I saw someone calculating, beautiful in his execution that night. I think Tim has to go back to that. I don't think his style is blasting blokes out of the ring, Kostya style. If he tries to fight like Kostya did, it won't work. But if he goes back to the executioner, the surgeon that we know that he is, I think he's not finished. He can rise again and win world titles.
What are you sort of hearing about, I guess, what domestic fights we have coming up? Let's talk of a Nikita Tszyu return. We saw Tim Tszyu return to the gym yesterday. Any sort of thing you can say on what's next there?
Well, I think there'll be some moves forward for Liam Wilson. I think he's not finished as a world title prospect. I know he's had 2 defeats against quality opponents. Navarrete won, of course. But I liked what he did against Huey Dib, and I think he's jumping up in weight could almost help his power. So I think Liam Wilson, I'd love to see a rematch with Huey Dib. I think there's something in that. I think Nikita Tszyu, Brock Jarvis, there's a tailor-made fight there. Brock's confident. He had a good win recently. He thinks he can knock off Nikita, but I think Nikita has another level or 2 in him, and I think he can beat Brock Jarvis. So, and of course, George Kambosos, I know he had that loss to Lomachenko and may not ever reach that Teofimo Lopez stratosphere ever again. I hope he can, but George is not finished either. I mean, he's still a quality fighter, and I'd love to see a Liam Paro, George Kambosos domestic blockbuster. That would be one of the best local fights since Mundine Green.
I saw some comments from Michael Zerafa to our mate Nick Walshaw this morning. What do you make of Michael Zerafa's comments saying Tim Tszyu's running from him now, and where's that fight sit within, I guess, the context of Australian boxing?
It's a fight that has to happen. I mean, I know Tim and his camp are saying, look, we're almost beyond, we're too good for Michael Zerafa. We don't need Michael Zerafa in our strategy moving forward. But for me, it's a score that needs to be settled. I think that, if anything, I think Michael Zerafa's at the right time to be picked by Tim Tszyu. I mean, Zerafa's still a quality fighter and probably world class, maybe not world title, world class after that loss to Lara. He's still got to prove a little bit more, but he's only had 2 or 3 rounds in 3 years of fighting. So if I'm Tim Tszyu, I'd be like, bring this on and let's finish what should have happened 2 or 3 years ago at Newcastle when it all fell apart in the last week or two. So look, Zerafa's up for it. I want him to be up for it because I think it could be a pay-per-view blockbuster in Australia.
Now, DAZN's recent purchase of Foxtel, how are you expecting that to impact the landscape here in Australia? Can you sort of comment on that?
Well, I spoke to No Limit about this, and look, they say they've got a contract in place with Fox Sports. I don't know the intricacies of it. Obviously, I'm not part of that. It's not my remit, but I think they've got a watertight contract. No Limit have been wonderful promoters for Australian boxing. They've probably been the best we've ever seen. They've taken the sport to unprecedented heights, and they'll do more in the future. So I think they're not finished by any means, and if anything, if DAZN was to come into the market, which they have obviously buying Foxtel, maybe, I don't know what that means for KO the app, who knows, I'm not privy to that information, but I think that DAZN will certainly look to put on more quality shows in Australia, boxing events, and I still don't believe, though, it should be seen as the demise of No Limit, because I don't think that would be. I think it'll be the elevation of both platforms.
Nice one. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jay.